Hello, everyone. My name is Jody Kielbasa, and I'm the director of the Virginia Film Festival and vice provost for the arts at the University of Virginia. Today, we are thrilled to welcome groundbreaking actress Linda Hamilton, who gave us one of Hollywood's most iconic female action hero characters as Sarah Connor in the Terminator franchise. Linda has enjoyed a vibrant career, including 2 Emmy nominations and a Golden Globe nomination for her role as Katherine Chandler in Beauty and the Beast. Following a long self-imposed hiatus from the big screen, Hamilton reprised the character last year in Terminator Dark Fate in all of her badass glory. She will talk about the films in her career in a special conversation with University of Virginia President Jim Ryan, and the two will be joined later in the discussion by noted producer and President Ryan's UVA Law School classmate, Julie Lynn, who worked with Hamilton as a producer on Terminator Dark Fate. My thanks and welcome to Linda Hamilton and President Jim Ryan.
Thanks to Jody. I will say the Virginia Film Festival is one of my favorite events of the year, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to participate in it. You know, when Jody approached me and offered me the opportunity to speak with you, Linda, I jumped at the chance because of your remarkable career and because you are a role model to many and you have played an iconic action hero. And given that we are celebrating 50 years of undergraduate coeducation at UVA, that this was a great time to have a chance to speak with you. But before we get started, I do want to ask, how are you doing in the time of COVID?
Certainly luckier than a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of having some job security, it's been interesting, and certainly a challenge, even for those that are blessed to, not have to worry about, losing our homes. But I've been fine. I just really mined my creative energy, did a lot of beading and a few little household projects.
Right.
And now I've gone back to work, and that's very interesting to see the new normal on set. I actually went to Canada, to Vancouver. So their policy versus my other show, which is here in New Orleans, was very interesting to sort of see how different regions are dealing with it and how it's going to be for the next bit for all of us, the distancing. And so I have remained an incredibly curious individual through my life. And I think that's probably the key to longevity, is staying curious and interested. So these are interesting times, and
no doubt about it.
You better get uncomfortable with uncertainty.
Yeah, no kidding.
Make friends with uncertainty, or, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. So let's start at the beginning, if that's okay. I believe you were just a child when you played the role of the grumpy badger in the play Toad of Toad Hall. And I read that this role was highlighted by your jumping out of a leaf pile to scare children. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, was this when you first decided you wanted to be an actor? And is this when you first discovered your inner Sarah Connor?
I look back and I really think that was inner Sarah Connor, because I had actually done children's theater the year before with my twin sister. And we both, because it's a cute little gimmick, that we each played the princess in Rumpelstiltskin. So we alternated. So it was starring the Hamilton twins.
Right.
And so being the princess really didn't mean much to me at all. It was the next year when I got to come out as Badger and scare the kids that I was like, I like this. So, not comfortable being the princess.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Sarah Connor role. I think everyone listening knows that this is the central character in the Terminator series, which began in 1984 and the most recent installment released in 2019. So let's go back to the beginning of the Terminator. How does a classically trained New York actress with a projected theater career end up playing one of the most iconic action heroes in modern film history? How did the role come about?
I don't know how it happened really. The audition process was eternal. I remember that. Arnold had to go away and do a movie in the middle of getting ready to shoot the Terminator. So add another 6 months into the formula. And they paired me with many actors to see who had chemistry as Kyle and Sarah.
Right.
And it really did go on for months and months, but ultimately it landed in my lap. And I wasn't even that excited about it.
You weren't.
Well, because that little snotty New York actress was like, "Oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger? I don't know. I don't know about this." You know, my people were excited about it, but it wasn't even really I mean, I had done some physical action before, but nothing ever on that level.
Right.
And it might have almost went to Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Interesting.
Isn't it? It's always interesting to think of an iconic character in someone else's hands.
Right.
But it fell to me. And it was only when I saw it that I realized, I mean, when I work, I just have to give everything. I will never hold back.
Right.
But it was only when I saw it that I realized it was a really good movie.
And
yeah.
So did you go into it thinking that this was an opportunity to portray a female character in a different way? Did you have any particular goal in mind in that respect?
Grandeur? No, I had no big thoughts of grandeur. You know, a young actress. I don't think I really felt that I impacted anybody particularly. I mean, I was still not unproven. I had done some work, but, you know, just still forming. And in those early days of a career, you're not that choosy. I mean, I did not have the luxury particularly to sit back and build a career.
Right.
You know, I fell into that part and then did a handsome job. And then became, you know, recognized for a different sort of fierceness. You know, it all just sort of, so it's a big domino effect, really. But, you know, none of it was really planned. And certainly never thought that that was the way that my career was going to go, being this strong woman. Ever. Never, you know, did I say I'm going to just become this strong, you know, immovable force in a film, but you certainly embrace it when it's assigned to me, and you know, I'm grateful to have made any sort of impact.
Right. Well, so playing such an iconic role, I would imagine, can create weird pressures on you as a person. I would think that people would associate the two of you as one and the same. And I remember reading an interview where you told a story about being in a pool hall in North Carolina, and people were whispering, that can't be her because she would play pool much better than that.
Exactly. People just really do not do a lot of work to disengage what they think about you and who you really are. I mean, you know, it's just the funniest thing in the world that, to me, that I ever became that iconic in somebody's, you know, lexicon. But I hear it more and more, sort of like, oh, you're a legend. And I'm like, no, you know, you know, I don't think I'm lucky enough to not think about myself in those terms, because I think that would be a terrible thing to try to live up to, and to be this sort of monolith of female empowerment. And, you know, my answer is to always try to neutralize that, because I want to play all kinds of women. I want to play women that aren't equipped. That's where comedy comes from. You know, I just truly love acting in the whole range. So the biggest hurdle for me was just, you know, I wore dresses for 2 years after the second movie, just to remind people that there is a feminine woman under,
Right.
you know, underneath. So I wore dresses and did a lot to just kind of separate myself from Sarah Connor, or I was going to play that part for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the other roles that you've played, because you've had a remarkable career outside of the Terminator series. You starred in the CBS series Beauty and the Beast opposite Ron Perlman. That was critically acclaimed, and you were nominated for both an Emmy and 2 Golden Globe Awards. You won a Cable Ace Award and received your 3rd Golden Globe nomination for your performance in A Mother's Prayer. You starred opposite Pierce Brosnan in Dante's Peak, and you starred with Eugene Levy in The Secret Life of Girls, just to mention a few. And I'm curious, of all the roles that you've played, do you have personally a favorite actor, a favorite character, I should say?
Oh, wow. You know what? I love my job. I really just love acting. So I have very little attachment to how a movie performs.
Yeah.
Or I don't read reviews. I don't even watch the movie anymore when it's done.
Really?
I just am very clear about, this is my job, is to do everything I can and then just leave it behind and go to the next one. I'm really strange that way. But, and so in a funny way, I just discover something in every part that I play that thrills me.
Right.
Right now on Claws, which is a completely crazy show, wacky, fun, and it's the final season. I'm enjoying this part because it's, I swear to you, Jim, I don't think I have smiled on film for 15 years. No, it's like I'm playing like an Earth Mama, kimono wearing, namaste type of woman who smiles and is warm.
Right.
And, you know, I've actually gone into meetings with directors over my long career and had directors say to me, well, you know, you've never played a part like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? They were like, well, normal. Like a normal, like, can you play normal? So it's so funny what things will stick like pasta, you know, to a wall.
Right.
So I sort of love the whole thing about that, about just hopefully, you know, still having a career where I can sort of just snatch a little of that and show a little bit of that.
Right.
I love comedy.
Right. Yeah.
I love comedy.
I mean, it's an incredibly versatile range of characters you've played, which seems to me increasingly unusual. People seem to get set in a particular type of character. This person's the hero, this person's the villain, this person's serious, this person's funny, and you've played a huge range. So I want to ask you about something else that you've done that not many people have had the opportunity to do, which is host Saturday Night Live.
One of the best experiences ever.
Yeah, can you tell me about it?
You know, I look back on that experience and I think, how could anybody that wasn't athletic even do it? Because you are running from set to set because it's live and you're stripping off clothes and putting things on. And it was so physical that it was kind of thrilling and terrifying, because they don't really care about you because you're just the guest, right? So they don't write your monologue until the very last minute. They're off writing their own brilliant little skits that they're going to be in. And you're like, just monologue. I just want to know how it starts, right? What's my monologue? How does it start? You know? So it was just exhilarating and terrifying and all of the things that you would imagine. And I look back on it super fondly.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was thinking about it, an episode from Saturday Night Live, as I was thinking about this interview where Chris Farley interviews, I can't remember who it was, but he does a terrible job. And he just says things like, you remember that time when you were in this scene?
Yes, that was in those days. It was Martin Scorsese, who's always a good sport on that show, apparently. He was on the show I did. I think that Yeah, he did a little skit. It might have been that one. I can't even remember
Right.
because it was a while ago.
Right. So
But
going back even further, I want to ask you about working with Lee Strasberg and how that affected your career. I mean, he's maybe the best known teacher of acting.
yeah, I was at the Institute in New York for not quite 4 years, I believe. And I couldn't afford to work with Lee. Lee was costly. So I
Right.
worked with Lee's teachers, and I worked with another amazing teacher, Nicholas Ray, who's a director from, the 40s and 50s, directed,
Yeah.
Johnny Guitar and, just amazing uh, films. So I worked with him, but I never got to work with Lee. But um, still, it was, it's sense memory, the method acting.
Right.
And it really, I had done some children's theater, of course, and college theater, little community theater. And then I went to New York and just got completely broken down and built anew,
Right.
just don't really think of myself as a method actor, but it was incredible, a great education. And, any reasonable person will take their strengths and use them and take bits of this. I think for an actor, you're just absorbing many different ways of learning and then, trying to translate that to
Right.
screen.
Right. Right.
So I would never say that I'm particularly a method actress.
Right.
Method has a really bad rap too, but we'll get into that next time.
Oh, it does. I didn't realize that.
Well, not bad, but just like people think that if you are an actor who's out of control, that's method. I mean, it's like, oh, they behaved really badly because they stayed in character. Method, but that is just a complete misinterpretation of what method acting is.
Right.
Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Well, let me ask you about your decision to leave Hollywood. So you were at the height of your career, and you left Hollywood in LA, spent some time in Virginia, and then settled in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I think most people would want to know why you left Hollywood, but I want to know, why did you leave Virginia?
Good question. Good. I was hoping you were going to say that. Yeah, we all understand why I left Hollywood. I didn't really feel like I fit in ever. You know what I mean? Just that's where I had to live to do my work.
Yeah.
And then you wake up one day and go, wait a minute, I bet they'll call me to work even if I'm not here, and the children were grown. The agents weren't calling as much. And I was like, I see the writing on the wall. This has got to be pared down to an affordable, realistic thing. And I really was just over the excesses of
Interesting.
of everything Hollywood, egos, breasts, lips,
Right.
overblown, real estate prices, everything there was just, it just didn't feel right for me anymore. So I moved to like Bleak House in Virginia, in Leesburg, to a 240-year-old farm with no AC. I mean, like, it was very different, very, very stripped down.
Right.
And I think that was important. I also was there so I could be close to my parents while they died. So
I'm sorry.
got through that, and then just had to get out of that. It's lonely having a farm. You've got land and you've only got 3 neighbors. And I just needed something vital with a young population. And, I wanted to see people of color around me, and just, I got to have the urban really close.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what made you decide to come back to this character, Sarah Connor, after almost 2 decades.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, wasn't it like 27 years? Yeah, 27 years later.
Sarah, 27 years.
27 years later. Jim called, Jim Cameron, and I had never, ever, ever, ever thought at all, or hoped to play her again. You know, I felt very comfortable with those two films being just very complete.
Yeah.
But so much time has passed and I've grown so much as an actor, as a person.
Right.
I thought that there might be some new fire to bring. You
Right.
know, I mean, I thought it would be very interesting to see, to fill in the 27 years of absence with my
Right.
own story. I mean, that is what we do. That's how we build character. And so instead of just entering right where I'd left off, I get to add 27 years and layer this woman who I care for greatly, Sarah Connor, you know, and
Right.
get to bring that. And it was a challenge to me because I was terrified, because I knew that, you know, I would risk, of course, nothing worse than being compared to yourself 27 years ago
Right.
when you're in your prime,
Right.
you know. And so anyone that like starts the film is going to be like, oh, she got old, you know, old. And like, yeah, let's start there. Let's start there and see what, you know. I just really wanted to have, I even dyed my hair white. My hair hasn't gone gray yet, but I just wanted to go, yeah, this ain't your old Sarah Connor. This is your
Right.
old Sarah Connor, you know. And that's a great jumping off point
Right.
for creativity. And I went very deep with this one, you know.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. Can you talk a little bit about how you prepared for it, both physically and emotionally? I mean, imagine both were challenging.
Yes, and arduous and long.
Yeah.
Because they just wouldn't start the film, and I'm like training and training and training, and you know, they postponed for maybe a half a year, so I was sort of ready for a half a year. Just like my interior monologue was like, who wants to fight? Like after a year and a half of getting ready, and I trained like mad, and you know, with a trainer here in New Orleans, and that was just a phenomenal experience because he just really was so devoted to getting a 62-year-old woman in shape, or maybe I was 61. And he works with Serena Williams. He's her strength coach. He has worked with football players and baseball stars. I mean, he is the real deal.
Right.
He probably knows more about the body in motion. And he's a scientist and a genius and a character. I mean, it was just this man named Mackie Shilstone. But he's never worked with anybody my age. There aren't professional athletes that are 62 years old. So this man really just kept layering on. I mean, he was up at 4 o'clock every morning reading research and supplements. And so really, I was ready by the time we started physically.
Right.
And then some. And emotionally, I worked hard. While I was breaking in my very big, loud dog, walking him in the neighborhood, I just did some, deep work, because Sarah Connor is a woman who I had to go into my deepest sorrow and disappointment every day, because that's who she is. She's disappointed in humanity, and she's just lost and fierce and lost, so there's no way to avoid doing the deep, painful work to bring that to screen. So I was awfully glad it took me another year afterwards to just kind of shed all of that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, how do you decompress from an intense experience
Well,
like that?
This one was the hardest. I mean, I've done it enough years that I'm good at just coming home and sitting down with my babies on the floor and being someone else. But I felt very alone on this one. I loved my team, thank God. But, I loved the women, and I loved Tim Miller, and we just created a it's Tim and his three muses. We just really created something phenomenal together.
Right.
But still, just physically, I really hurt. I mean, bursitis and landing on elbows. And I mean, it was physically so hard.
Right.
And I pretty much just kind of laid around until it came for a year after filming, until we went and did the press. So it was really a long haul.
Right.
And now she doesn't really enter my psyche at all. So I'm getting through it.
Good. Good.
And I don't usually carry characters around. I mean, my work process is very healthy. I work, I come home, and I'm myself, not the character. But she, for the first time ever, I think just really did linger in me, because it was painful work. And I even went on hormones for a minute, because I had a whole village of people guiding me. Mackie I had a pulmonologist and a cardiologist and a nutritionist and a physical therapist and just unbelievable how many people were surrounding me. And my family doctor said, "What about hormones?" And I was like, "Why would I want hormones? I'm so happy on this side of hormones." On the other side of hormones, like, well, you could get 5% more muscle mass maybe and look younger. And I'm like, all right. So we started me on a very friendly, this is probably not film festival material, but anyway, I must be so sensitive. My body does not like hormones. And after a cup, and it was very, it's bioidenticals. I mean, very, very careful, small doses. And then I just woke up one night in such an angry, like, I just was like, if this is what it's like to be a guy, because, we were upping the testosterone. And I'm like, no, this is not the person you want showing up on set. My blood pressure was spiking. I mean, it was like completely not who you want showing up on set.
Sarah Connor with extra hormones.
Oh, no. So that didn't work. So just grit and courage every day. That's what I do.
Right. While we're on the topic of the people who were around you in the latest Terminator, I wonder if we can bring Julie in.
Yes.
Okay.
I love this woman.
Hi, people.
Hi. I am really interested in talking to both of you. Linda, as you may know, Julie and I go back to our time at UVA Law School, but clearly the two of you have had more fun together recently.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, absolutely.
My sister graduated from UVA Law.
Oh, no kidding.
No kidding. Did
Wow.
you know that, Julie?
No, I did not know that.
I double checked that with her, but my older sister graduated from UVA Law.
It's a small world.
Yeah, that was 1986.
Wow.
Well, I love Charlottesville. I spent a summer there, one crazy summer out of my life, because I was pretty sure I wanted to move there, but that was early days, and I had to sort of return to Hollywood. But I spent a summer there. Sissy Spacek. I just loved her lifestyle.
Right.
Jack. I was like, I want that for myself and my child. Really loved it.
It's a neat place.
Yeah. I'll tell you my Sissy Spacek story, because she was the one who made my introductions to Hollywood for me.
Oh, Sissy. She's so lovely.
We're not boring a bunch of people. I'll tell you a very funny story about having coffee with her at the Gourmet Exxon in Charlottesville, and Jessica.
Oh, no kidding.
And Jessica Lange walking in. It was.
Ooh, want to hear that one?
I used to see Sam Shepard at what is that bar in the downtown mall? Miller's.
Yeah, he used to go to Miller's a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
So you and Julie, law school.
So Julie and I went to law school, and like most UVA law alums, she became a movie producer, and with her production company, Mockingbird Pictures, and her partner Bonnie Curtis, she has produced some remarkable and critically acclaimed films. that she has graciously shared with the Virginia Film Festival in the past, including Wakefield 5 to 7, Last Days in the Desert, The Face of Love, and Albert Nobbs, among others. But Julie, your resume does not include a lot of action movies. And so I'm curious what drew you to this one?
We, oh, now my dog is going to make noise. Oscar, it's okay. We want to be old dogs learning new tricks. And it was so, so fun. I'd never done a big car chase before. I'd never done a huge VFX movie before. And I love that learning aspect of it. Bonnie and I have a first look deal with Skydance Media. And normally we grow our movies. Like a writer director comes to us with an idea or an early draft of a script or a book that they want to adapt or something like that. But this was completely different. They had already baked the pie, kind of. Right. The folks at Skydance called us and said, Terminator's up in pre-production. We feel like we need creative producers on the ground there. Can you go next week? And we landed on the ground 6 weeks before filming a movie that had been entirely, the cast had been hired, the crew had been hired. We hadn't built it. It was the first time I've ever done a movie that I didn't build as a producer with the director. And, so we had to hit the ground. Like, you have to cut 5% of the budget, and we have to make sure that we film the script that Jim Cameron wants to have filmed. And it was crazy. And I'm sure hard for Linda and everybody, because we show up and Linda and everybody's like, are you the studio suits come to make sure we do all the right things? Like, it took us a while for everybody to understand that Bonnie and I always go native, like we're filmmakers, producers, and we were going to be part of the family of making the film. But it was unusual for us, not just because of the action, but also because of the fact that we were strangers in a strange land, kind of making.
And the two of you, was that the first time you had met?
Oh, with Linda? Yeah. I mean, that was so exciting for us. But it was, first of all, Linda is much more diminutive in human form than you expect, because she's such a strong presence.
Right.
And so when she walks out and she's only up to about here, it's a big shocker. And also, I think we expected much more of a diva. You know, our first AD said that when the actors were called, Linda was always the first. Oh, there's Oscar. Hi, Oscar. When the actors were called, Linda was always the first one to be there. She's incredibly responsive in terms of knowing the work she has to do, being prepared. She's just sort of diva opposite. So there was a lot we didn't expect from her. She's a big kisser and hugger too, which
not anymore.
No, not now.
Really sad. I know, baby.
So can you talk a little bit about what it was like to watch Linda on the set transform into Sarah Connor?
It was just like a glove for her. But I think the first day, I saw some nerves in her. And there were a lot of people around, and it's a lot of expectation, and it's been 27 years away from an iconic role. But then it was almost like that first day shook off, because Linda may not be a method actor in the way we think of method acting, but she goes inside. And so it really was like watching a hand go into a glove that had been made bespoke for it. And then it was just super fun to watch. I mean, she was an incredible physical condition, but also she just knew that character. So there was no needing to be told who she was. There was no needing to figure out who she was. We were all asking Linda, what's happening here? What's happening in this scene? What's happening? What is it like to experience this? And she was teaching us. And she taught us a lot too.
Oh, that's crazy.
No, but it's true.
So one of the things I'd love for both of you to talk a little bit about is that there are two other very strong female characters. And just what was that experience like? And what do you make of it?
I'm going there, Julie.
Do it.
They were two of the finest women I have ever known in my career. Somehow we got each other through it. And if there had been a weak link amongst the three actresses, it would have sunk the ship from day one. But we all just, Mackenzie Mac was just super impressive, kind of doing Sarah Connor in 1991, or not, well, I don't even know when the last one was, 1991, you know, training nonstop, showing up ready, getting no sleep because she was so committed to learning the weapons and learning the stunt scenes. And, you know, she was so impressive. And to watch her transform herself. And then dear Natalia, who is just sort of this quiet, beautiful, beautiful, quiet lake with just so many deep waters running underneath, and made everything effortless. And she's acting in not even her native language, but acting with, you know, a secondary language. It's just truly, I've never felt so, you know, the three levels of twine to really make it strong. They were a joy to work with. And I couldn't begin to pretend to say that about, I don't care enough about anything to really lie. But these women were absolutely stunning.
Yeah, well, it certainly seemed like you had great chemistry on the screen, but I know that's not always the case behind the scenes.
True. Some, you know, if you're good enough, you see chemistry even when it's not there, because the actor, but
right.
no, there was true, just forged by fire too, a friendship that, you know, every day one of us was doing something to elevate the others. You know, we just kind of took turns. We had a thread, a text thread. So our thread between the three actresses was just for us was, is it 6? Because we had to wrap at 6 in the morning or 6 at night, and 6 is when we finished. And so it was just like, is it 6? Because every day was so hard, but we just kept each other going.
I mean, Jim, we put them underwater. Like these women were incredible. And Bonnie and I will always say there aren't a lot of, we love actors and we appreciate actors. There aren't a ton of actors that we hold on to as friends, you know, ongoing after we're done working together.
Right.
There are always a few exceptions that prove the rule. Annette Bening is a good one, who's actually, Linda, she's doing a coffee talk for the festival this year as well.
Cool.
But there aren't a lot, but it's amazing because we've been in contact with Linda and Mac and Natalia ever since we stopped filming, because it was really, really lovely. And we did put them through it. Like Natalia and Linda had to shoot this underwater scene, which I don't want to give too much away for people that haven't seen the movie yet. Please go stream the
You should. It's a great film.
And we stuck them underwater for a significant amount of time, and they just powered through. And I don't think Mackenzie got to eat a carbohydrate for like 9 months. And the one scene where she has to be really, really stripped down because she lands
naked.
Right.
We can say it.
Right.
She lands naked. I mean, because of a variety of things like weather and schedule and, you know, finding asbestos in a building we had to clean out. That kept getting pushed. So she kept not being able to eat any carbohydrates. So like she was just on that winnow down diet forever. So we really put them through a lot. Like a lot of times on movie sets, you think of the actors as being the most pampered people in the universe.
Right.
But on this one, they really had the hardest job. can't usually say that about a movie, but in this one, the actors really had the hardest jobs.
Right. And does your character, or the way you portray your character, change in at least subtle ways depending on your colleagues and your co-actors? Right? I mean,
Well, it would have to, wouldn't it? I mean, on some level, whether it's visible or not, some deeper level, I think people recognize the truth and authenticity when it's there.
Yeah, right.
And it can be faked really well, but I think I felt very safe working with these actresses too. I mean, there have been times where I've had to work with actors, for instance, playing husbands that I just don't care for at all. And I have gotten to this very strange place where I just am such a truth teller that I have done scenes where I had to spend all day with an actor that I didn't like, including doing a kissing scene, good, clean husband-wife stuff. But at the end of the day, I've come home with laryngitis. I've lost my voice. It's literally hits me physically. It's happened, and there was another time where I had to really pretend to get along with someone, and I came home and had dry heaves. Do you know what I mean? Like, my body really wants to tell the truth.
Right.
So I think that's probably just, because I'm just really kind of clean with my job anymore and stuff, and I can act it, but the body is going to tell me later.
Right. Yeah. Huh.
Interesting.
So Julie, I want to ask you, for people who are interested in going from law school to being a movie producer, how did that happen? Because it is not a usual path.
It is not. I've had a number of students, both undergraduate and law school from UVA, come and intern for me. One of the law students is now, she's of counsel at Amazon. She's doing legal affairs in Amazon. I had been a theater and foreign affairs major undergrad, and my essay for law school was actually about combining the arts and law. And I don't think I knew what that looked like, but I knew that I wanted to sort of find that way. And then my first job out of law school was Bob O'Neill asked me to come work for the Thomas Jefferson Center for the Protection of Free Expression.
Oh, yeah.
And so with First Amendment work, I really got to do that. I got to write amicus briefs, and I got to be part of that big, I don't know if you guys remember that NEA 4 case with the performance artists who were prosecuted for obscene art, but we got to be part of that. But I think it was a slow migration, because I sort of felt like I wanted to reach more people in my daily work. And I was never a great law student like you, Jim. Jim was, I think, at the very top of our class, and I was definitely nowhere near the very top of our class. I think I was not interested enough in the intricacies of the law to get to where I wanted to be in a career. Like, I wanted to be in a career where I could make a difference, and where I could reach a lot of people. And I love the Thomas Jefferson Center, and I remained involved with them, but I felt like I was really only reaching a very, very limited group of people in my daily work. And at that point, it was either move to DC and try to become someone's chief of staff in politics, or go to LA and make movies. And having grown up in DC and having been politically obsessed and never having stopped working on political campaigns my whole life, including now, I sort of felt like I could keep doing politics no matter what, and that I would give movies a try. So I moved to LA. I worked for $500 a week for a very, very, very long time. I was a junior executive, then I was an assistant, and then I was sort of an associate producer on some films, and then I crazily started my own company, and my boss at the time told me it would never work. I would never make it.
So just a couple more questions. And this is to both of you. I mean, what do you find the most satisfying part of either being an actress or being a producer, being part of television or film? What is it? The aesthetic aspect of it? Is the impact? What part of it do you feel this is so satisfying?
I'll answer that first. I have never ever felt like I was part of something important. I just love acting. I love just playing a part. I am so simple in my joy and wonderment about showing up on set every day. And I just reduce my job down to the simplest levels. Years ago, it was simply, I've got one job, and that's to make the director happy. It's not to go in with all these, I mean, of course I have ideas and I built character and stacked, my story, but I just love showing up every day and getting in front of the camera. I'm not a particular cinephile at all. I didn't even watch television for probably 15 years. So I'm a reader. So I just make my living as an actor, and then I go home and read books. That's my true love.
It's true. Linda goes through a book every 2 to 3 days, depending on the length.
I just somehow, it's words that get me more than images.
Right.
So and thoughts, and if I've read a book, I never want to see it on film, because what this has done with the book is so much more suited for me. Perfect for me, because it's coming from my mind. I don't know. I just I'm very disappointing when you talk to me about film.
I don't know. It doesn't seem disappointing to me. It seems like you love what you do.
I do.
And that there are not a lot of people who can say that.
Yeah, and I mean, I can feel truth when it's on the set and something is happening between two people. And I mean, there are definitely days that are more rewarding than others on set, but that's the only thing that I really care about, is the true connection.
Right.
Because I have absolutely no control over how they're filming me, how they put it together, how they edit, how much money we don't have to make that scene better. I mean, I have done some great work under heartbreaking conditions where it's like, you mean you're really going to shoot this whole 8-page scene from outside the RV coming through, and that's it? I mean, just fantastic writers that don't know how to direct or whatever. And you can't get attached to that, because that's going to ruin your day. All you can do is bring your best under the circumstances, but bring the best.
Right.
So how about you, Julie?
I love my job too. I love how every day is different. I love how it's, I think, maybe the most communal form of art that there is. I mean, I think there's a lot of communal art. People do dance and many things, but there's so many people doing so many different things, all coming together to make one piece of art. And there's always a day on set where I look around and I'm just gobsmacked by the amount of competence around me in a great way. The setting of the lights and the movement of the camera and the beauty of the costumes and the extraordinary nature of the sets and the sensitivity with which everybody does their work. It's extraordinary. And I love to have gotten to be a part of assembling that and putting that together and figuring out the problems. But there is always a day in every production where Bonnie comes to me, she'll come running down to the set or whatever, and she'll say, we have our first situation, meaning we have a big problem. And that makes her happy. She loves that.
solving problems.
So we get to come together and put our heads together and figure it out. But every day is different. Some days are just about, you take all the scenes of the movie and lay them out on index cards on my dining table over there with the writer and figure out why it's not fully working. So it's all just, it's all everybody working together to make something really good. And that is such a pleasure. And I think it says a lot about what's wonderful about humanity, about people, that they can find a way to collaborate with each other to do this. Sometimes it's more in service of commerce. Sometimes it's more in service of art. I've worked on a lot of movies that were made for well under $1 million. And now I've worked on movies that were made for $150 million. But it's beautiful, and it's beautiful to see, it's beautiful to create a world in which people feel safe to do their best work. Right. And I think, Jim, that's a lot like what you do as president of university, right? You're trying to make an environment where people feel safe to do their best work and to take risk and to make their voices heard. So I think producing a movie is a little bit like maybe being a university president, but my job's a lot easier than yours.
Well, I don't know about that, but you're right about working together with amazing people on a common project. I mean, that is probably the highlight of my work. So you guys have been incredibly kind, and Linda in particular, for giving so much time. I just have one last question, and it's about advice I've read that you have offered to others. One, which I just loved, this was advice for younger actresses. You said, never go back in time and let them put you on film in the 80s. The hair was terrible and it might live on and you will regret it. Having grown up in the 80s, I think that's really sage advice. But I want to ask you about something else you said, which is never let them take the you out of you. And I'm wondering what you mean by that and how you have lived it.
Well, that's a story that you put together over time for yourself when you realize that, especially in auditions and in my world of just so much rejection, really. And there's not an actor out there that hasn't gone through more rejection than they have success. I mean, even the successful ones, you know, because there's just there are so many people competing for the work, and you know, one really has to understand that for me, out of every 10 things I read, I might want one, and out of every 10 things I want, I might get one. So, you know, and that's a lot of rejection to get in between. And I just have arrived at a place where, you know, I've gone this far without really playing along. I mean, I refuse to wear makeup. I mean, on film I do, but the only time I put makeup on is on film. I just have sort of played it my way, you know, and just, and at a certain point, I've gained an experience that I just am really, I have to stand in my own shoes really proudly. Because so many people are trying to be like that or be this person, or, you know, and it's just taking themselves out of their own strength. And I've just learned to sort of stand in my own shoes and own every part of myself and embrace it, because I just don't want to be the person that's always dreaming or scheming. I mean, I just want to be solidly, I'm rich in imagination, and I am curious, and I am informed, and I'm going to stand here and own that, especially at auditions and meetings. Right. You know, I just can't there's no part of me that wants to pretend I'm 20 years younger, so I get those parts. Right. It's like this, I own it, you know, and if you can find that earlier in life, you're going to do pretty well, right. You know, right. This is me, and I'm going to own it and be proud.
Well, you know, that's good advice for actors, actresses, producers, and academics all alike, owning who you are. So listen, Julie told me that I would love spending time talking with you, and she was exactly right. And I want to thank you and Julie for your time on behalf of the University of Virginia and the Virginia Film Festival. It's been a total delight and an honor to spend time with both of you.